Hello book buddies, and welcome back to my channel. I am Gwen, owner of Gold Dust Editing and Book Reviews, where you guessed it, we do book editing, book reviews, book promotions, and now we offer free feedback for unpublished works. Pretty soon we will also be doing author interviews and have contests, raffles, and giveaways. So if you want to make sure to stay up to date on everything we offer, be sure to subscribe and hit your notification bell. If you'd like to submit your work for any of our services, I have dropped the link in the description down below. It'll give you all the information you need on how to submit. I think I just had a brain freeze there. And while you're down there checking that out, be sure to like and comment. I would love to hear from you guys. So today we're going to the East Coast. We're going to start out in New York and going down to DC. This is the setting for Savannah Run by author Michelle Donn. Kind of catchy, right? Well, she's a self-published author, and this is the first book I've read of hers. And I am a big supporter of self-pub, so you know what? I was very, very happy to get an opportunity to assist Michelle. So here we go. Here's your blurb. All right, romance. You guys know I love a good romance. And so in this book, there's not just romance, lovey-dovey hugging and kissing, which there is some of that, but we also have some thrills and some action and, some shooting and fighting and all this delicious stuff. So yeah, it was a busy, busy book. So, which is a good thing, don't get me wrong. Okay, so let's start from the beginning. Leah Stone is an accountant, and she started a job at a new firm, and she's sitting at her desk, when the book opens, and she sees this file, and she's like, oh, this dude's been naughty. I mean, it's just like evident to her that he's been naughty, and that kind of prompts her to want to, further investigate and whatnot. So she does that, and she decides like this company is just shady. But she can't just walk away and let them get caught on their own. It's her duty, as a decent human being, to bring them down. But not only is she fueled by her integrity, but her mom, it's whatever both her parents are dead. And the situation behind her mom's death is prompting her to push forward with this, because she feels like if someone had helped her mom and acted as a witness and offered her protection, that her mom would still be alive today. So she just can't let this go. And I get that. I totally get it, wanting to do the right thing. And the people that mobsters hurt, I mean, sex trafficking, guns, drugs, everything. So very commendable character. So she has to get into her boss's office to get the main computer to see, other files, because here's the thing. She had asked her co-worker, have you ever seen anything like this? Do you understand what's going on? And he kind of brushes her off and says, just keep your head down, do your work. And that left me believing, like, I don't know if he's a part of it and just kind of putting her in a different direction, or if it's one of these cases where it's like, hey, my chair is squeaking. It's like, hey, I know they're wrong, but I need the job, gotta pay my bills and whatnot. I'm not sure what was going on with him at that point, but that's kind of what happened. So she just says, oh, okay, and leaves it alone as far as he's concerned. But then on Wednesday, they have this luncheon. It's like a mandatory, weekly luncheon or something. Everybody goes in the conference room. So she decides to go into her boss's office to see if she can access his files. Oh, but before we get to that, I missed a part. This guy comes in, and it's a client, and he goes in to see her boss, and he stops, and he kind of does inappropriate, I mean, he doesn't touch her or anything, but his, dialogue per se, the way he speaks to her is inappropriate for them to be in a professional relationship. And so she's kind of like sleazed out about him or whatever. And so, he goes on into the office. That's important to say, because then she Googles him and realizes he's tied to organized crime, and they've been trying to bring him down. The government has been trying to bring him down a long time, FBI and everybody, and they just have had no luck. And so I thought that was very interesting that he just walks into this accounting office, and he's a well-known person known to do bad things. And so I was like, So anyway, she decides to go into her boss's office while everybody's at this luncheon and try to get his files. Here's what's interesting. It says that the boss's office is in the back. He chose that office because it faces the alley, even though he always keeps the blinds drawn. And so that's his office. And then, that's a setup for saying, yeah, he's, it would lead a reader to believe, yeah, he knows what he's doing is wrong. It's not like, he's not aware that someone is using his company. And you can't launder money through a company without having some inside help anyway, right? So, but just to point out that his office was in that area, it's like, okay, big boss is not like a little guy doing this. Big boss is, shady or whatever. But here's what's interesting. So he knows he's wrong, but his, illegal clients are coming in, or his clients with the illegal activity just kind of walk into his building, his office. Number two, he doesn't lock his office when he's not in there. And number three, and the big one for me, is there was no password on the computer. So she goes and sits behind his desk, puts her thumb drive in there, and it says when it comes up, their accounting program is his home page. She goes in and there's these files, and it's like hundreds of them is what it says. And all of these files are named with the client's actual names, to where if you Google their names, all this bad stuff about them comes up. And they gave me pause when I was reading this book. I'm like, okay, so he has no kind of protection with these files. He doesn't have them in a hidden folder, secure folder. He doesn't even have a password on his computer. And here's what's more interesting about that is, most of the time, if you hear about a company, where their employees are working on computers, they kind of tell them, make sure you lock your computer. Okay, he's the boss. Nobody's there to tell him to lock his computer. But in my past experience, what would happen is, if I, walked away and forgot to lock my computer, when I came back, it was locked. If I was gone for more than 2 minutes, it locked itself. It's like a screensaver would pop up, and then I had to do my whole Control-Alt-Delete thing and put in my password again. I think that's kind of like a standard thing. I could be wrong, but we won't get into the specifics of IT. I'm just saying to you, these things were popping into my head when I was reading the book. And so basically what I'm saying is it was too easy, and that kind of, I don't want to say disappointed, but pretty much it did. I was like, this is too easy. So you have all this action and you're sitting here and she's sweating like, I got to get these files downloaded because there's so many of them. It was going to take a while before he comes back, right? But it was too easy for her to get to the files, especially for somebody's computer when they know they're doing wrong. And if that information is taken, if someone gets a hold of that information, they're going to bring down a lot of people who won't be happy and who has a lot of power and resources and connections to pretty much do away with anybody they're not happy with. And so basically I struggled with that first part of the book. Then we get to the FBI and they say to her, well, you don't have an appointment. So, you got to make an appointment. We can't see you today. And they don't have an appointment until like next week or something. She's like, well, now I have all these files on this. Oh, and I have to tell you, it was taking too long to download the files on the thumb drive. So she decided to send them to her Google Drive. And so she transferred from his computer to download it to her drive. And then when she came out of the office, the boss is standing there, and when it notified her that it was done, her phone went off at the same time the boss's phone did. But they were talking about baseball, so he just kind of stopped his notification, but he did glance at her because both of their phones went off at the same time. And then she gets rid of her account to where, and she's like, oh, when he remembers that simultaneous notification, he'll think it was me, right? And I'm like, yeah, that was bad. But then the boss goes in his office, and then he realizes something's wrong, and he's on the phone, and he comes out of the office and he's talking on the phone, and oh yeah, I'm gonna get him, or whatever he was saying. It wasn't good. And so I paused again, and I'm like, so he's not even trying to hide what he's doing. And he has to know everybody in his company doesn't know, because Leah doesn't know. He knows he hasn't told her. But he walks right past her desk, all upset on the phone, and then he calls the computer guy over, whom, in my opinion, he needs to fire because, no password, no secure folder, nothing. I'm not even sure why the guy had a job. But anyway, they're talking, And he's upset and he's walking through the office talking about this on the phone. And it's like, he's so open. And I'm not used to that in books with these type of characters. They're really very secretive and they talk in code and they use code names and aliases or whatever you want to call them. And none of that is going on in this book. So they kind of like baffled me, for lack of a better word. They kind of baffled me. But anyway, we get to the FBI and they tell her she has to have an appointment. And so she's like, well, I'm going to get to the other FBI in DC. And that's where Eric Todd comes in, and he escorts her there. Well, he meets her there because at first he turned her down because she wasn't going to be able to afford his rates. And so a lot of this is getting from this FBI office to that FBI office. And then they go in there. I mean, it's not a majority of the book, but that was our first trip, right? So they go in there and talk to the FBI guy, Sims, and he's very, nonchalant and not really taking him seriously and treating her like he thinks she's lying. What's interesting about that is it's all over the internet, in the news, that the federal government, which the FBI is a part of and they do the investigation for, is trying to bring these criminals down. And so they get a person to come in there and say, I have all this information that will help you do that. And they say, oh, you don't have an appointment. And then you get to the other one and he says, yeah, okay, I'll check into it. I understand this is fiction, but even in fiction, you have to stay within the realm of believability of the world that you've created. I say that all the time, and it's true. I just don't think the FBI would do that. I don't think, they appeal to the public to help them solve crimes. No, they don't want you going out there interrogating people and surveying people and all of that, but they will say, if you know anything, please reach out to us. They have a FBI 10 most wanted list, 10 most wanted list. And so, and they offer rewards to the public to bring them information. And then so I don't think they're going to turn away a person who does just that, handing them a case. Even if they're not sure the information is good, they follow leads all the time. And a lot of them lead them to a dead end, but they follow them because they're trying to gather enough evidence to secure, convictions and stuff. So, that first FBI was turning her away, and then get to the second one and he's just acting all nonchalant, and then they keep making comments like, we have to, convince the FBI to protect you. Now, the U.S. Marshal Service will protect witnesses, but usually it's because someone like the FBI got involved. And they say, okay, we have this witness and we need you to protect them. And so it seems like basically there was some research in order needed here, and it wasn't done. And the story was difficult for me to follow along because I kept coming up going, wait, why would they do that? No, they wouldn't do that, and stuff like that. And, it was just very, difficult for me to comprehend, and, all these improbable events. So lots of action, and so that part would get you like, oh crap, that was close and all of that. But the story itself was difficult for me to follow because in order for this to happen, that had to happen, and that just wouldn't be the case. So, of course, these two fall in love. It's a romance, so I didn't just spoil anything for you, but I didn't see a lot of relationship development. There was a lot of physical attraction, but there was no real deep connection with him on an emotional level. He is, he wants to keep her safe, and that's his job to do things like that. Well, it's not his job to really keep people safe. He's not that. He's a fixer, not a protector. But he took on, he agreed to go on this journey. So he's trying to keep her safe until they can convince the FBI to do so. And so a lot of it is just like, it's one of those, we're in the moment and we're highly physically attracted to each other, but just like readers don't know a lot of personal information about them to help us connect to them on an emotional level, they didn't exchange stories like that. It's about what's happening now, and as we know, it's our past and experiences that we've had that mold us into who we are today. And so I struggled with believing that their relationship, was something other than just sex and trying to bring down a criminal enterprise. There was no emotional connection as far as I could see with me to the characters or the characters to each other. And I know that's quite disappointing, and I'm sorry, but that's the review we have today. Like I said, this author's writing, you know, the way she forms her sentences and the way she describes those things are really great. And her use of grammar, the dialogue is really great. It was the development, the character development, relationship development, and the story development. Which brings us to the rating. So for those of you who are not aware, I use cups of coffee instead of stars. And basically I'm saying how many cups of coffee did I drink to get through the book. And I like to clarify something here because I think I may have confused people in the last video. I said, you know, how many cups of coffee did I drink? And then, you know, 5 cups of coffee slid through and I said I didn't drink any. They may have confused somebody. So basically what's happening, all cups were full. And so that meant I didn't drink any. So that's how my reading system works. So sorry to get off on a tangent, but I just thought, you know, I was thinking about it, I better throw that in there. So back to this book, back to the rating. So 0 cups of coffee is equivalent to 5 stars. 1 cup of coffee is equivalent to 4 stars, and so on and so forth. So the big question is, how many cups of coffee did I drink to get through Savannah Run? Well, here you go. Yes, 3 cups of coffee. The cups are empty. I drank, and it wasn't a thing of me being like going to sleep. That's not what the coffee means. It's a pick-me-up. Like I said, it's like equivalent to stars. So basically, there's action in the book that'll keep you going. Okay, how are they going to get out of this? You know, and how are they going to get out of that? So you'll read that, but I struggled, like I said, in the other 3 areas. Please keep in mind that book reviews are subjective. What doesn't work for me may work for you, and may work for you, I should say, and I think that's great. So please do grab a copy, take a read, and then come back and tell us what you think. I would love to hear about it. With that being said, that is it for today's review. Thank you guys for joining me, and I look forward to seeing you next time. Till then, happy reading.